Welcome back. First, the Navy ensign changed last year. Today, the Indian Navy has unveiled new epaulets for admirals, something which Prime Minister Modi had spoken of on the Navy Day, which is inspired by the legacy of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja. The new design draws from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaja's royal seal, the Raj Mudra, that is said to have been given to him from his father. Calling it a true reflection of our maritime heritage, the Navy gave specific meanings to each change that's been made. Let's first take a look at the symbolism as my colleague Aisha brings us this report.
The changes have been made to the Indian Navy's epaulette, which is the ornamental shoulder piece, and these also signal an end of its colonial association. So what exactly are the changes that have been made? We'll just go through them. The first is the octagon, which represents all of the 8 cardinal directions. Beyond that, it's also indicative of the long-term vision of the Navy. Beyond that, the other changes that have been made include the addition of a sword, which emphasizes the overall purpose of the Navy, which is to be the cutting edge of national power, to win wars through dominance, to defeat adversaries, and to overcome challenges. Beyond this, the change was initially announced by the Prime Minister on Navy Day in Maharashtra. The Prime Minister had also announced at that point that the Indian Navy's ranks are going to be named in line with Indian traditions.
Right. And the government claims, even Prime Minister earlier had said that it's a step away from the colonial mindset. Earlier this year, a change in the parliament uniform was introduced. It became beige rust and included a lotus motif. Beating the retreat ceremony song was changed from Abide With Me to Ae Mere Watan Ke logo. 3 new criminal laws were introduced. Again, it was said that it is breaking away from the shackles of a colonial mindset, or to revamp India from a colonial era. Even changing the name of Rajpath to Kartavya Path, for that matter. Let's just try and understand what all of this signifies. I'm being joined right now by Vice Admiral BS Randhawa. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. Vice Admiral Randhawa was a former chief of marshal at the integrated headquarters for the Ministry of Defense. Thank you very much, sir. Let me first just ask you, what really is the significance of what we've seen today?
Well, as you know, the purpose of the insignia worn by a flag officer is to display his rank and indicate his position in the very hierarchical services structure. So first of all, it should very clearly bring out his rank, and that is being brought out by the number of stars on the epaulette. The number of the stars is same as earlier. For an admiral, of which we have only one, the naval chief, he wears 4 stars, and Vice Admiral 3, Rear Admiral 2. Now, what has changed is first, let's take the emblem on top, where we see the Ashoka emblem embossed in a hexagon with a red background. Now, earlier, this emblem was woven in zari, and it had also a red background, but the red background followed the contours of the emblem. So the change is that now it is in an octagonal background, and the octagon signifies or having a vision, a long-sighted vision in all directions, in all 8 directions of the compass. So that is what it is supposed to signify. Secondly, just under the Ashoka emblem, we had earlier a cross sword and baton. Now, a baton is carried by a senior officer when in a appropriate uniform, and the sword is worn for ceremonial purposes. So this is also represented on the shoulder epaulets of the Indian Army. In the case of the Navy now...
Sir, just very interesting. Right, sure.
In the case of the Navy, the baton has been replaced by a telescope. Now, a telescope is signifying now to have a long-sighted vision, looking in all directions with foresight and an eye on the future. So that's the basic change that has come about. I have not seen physically the
Right. So why,
Ashoka
it's
emblem
interesting,
today.
if I may ask, why particularly Admirals Epaulette first? I mean, it could have been an overall across board. Why only the Admirals? Is there a reason behind it?
Well, change must start from the top, and only admirals wear this Ashoka emblem on their shoulders. Commodores and below do not wear this type of shoulder epaulette.
Right.
They have stripes. So the Ashoka emblem was present only for Rear Admiral, Vice Admiral, and for the Admiral, and that is where the changes come.
Right. Right. I mean, there's been a lot of changes. If you look at, we look at uniforms. Even earlier, you had the army fatigues that saw changes. You've seen the Navy ensign change. You're seeing this particular change. As a veteran, how do you look at all of these things?
Well, I think veterans and serving officers will see it with the same view that change is necessary for progress. And we have been changing uniforms in the past as well. Now, our naval uniforms were inherited from British Navy, and we made some changes because if you see, the British Navy serves most of their period in colder climates, whereas we are in warm climates. So we wear white for the most of the year. In fact, south of Delhi, you wear white throughout the year. You never wear blues or the black uniform, never wear winter uniform.
Right.
So earlier, at the time of independence, right, the working day-to-day working uniform or service dress was white shirt and white shorts with white stockings and shoes. But then, in keeping with the requirement for change and to make the uniform a little more imposing, long trousers were brought in, and the shirt was retained, right, half sleeves. And this became the new uniform 8As.
Right.
So it's not as if change has not happened earlier.
Right.
The change has come about now. And change is generally brought in to for functionality, to bring in modernization, because new fabrics come.
But with these changes that you are seeing, right, with these changes that you are seeing, not only perhaps in Navy's ensign or the epaulette, but also about how, there are certain other changes that have also been brought about, like Kartavya Path. The name has been now rechristened. So all of these things, do you, as a person who was serving in the defense, see a messaging from India?
Well, there was no harm in changing the name from Rajpath to Kartavya Path, because really Raj signifies an imperial power, whereas Kartavya is a kind of responsibility or duty. So it was a change brought in. And in Delhi, especially, roads have been renamed a number of times. So that is just accepted in keeping with the ethos of the times. And it doesn't affect the functioning of the services as such. The services are trained and motivated to get on with the job at hand, which is primarily to be prepared for all eventualities. However, bringing in Shivaji's
Thank you very much.
octagonal emblem is a good, I would say, it's a good change. It has brought a little Indianization into the epaulette. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vice Admiral Randhawa, for joining us at this time. And shifting gear, after almost 2 failed attempts, finally in a big win, the centre Assam government have got ULFA to sign the peace accord in what is being seen as a historic move, pledging to end the insurgency in this region that has almost a history of 44 years. ULFA formed in 1979, demanding a sovereign Assam, carried out a reign of terror in Assam state in the late 1980s, including extortion, kidnappings and killings, especially targeting the state's flourishing tea companies. Let's listen in to some reactions.
पूरे नॉर्थ ईस्ट और विशेष कर आसाम के लिए एक शांति के नए युग की शुरुआत होने जा रही है। मैं आज उल्फा के सभी प्रतिनिधियों को हृदय से विश्वास दिलाना चाहता हूं कि आपने जो भरोसा भारत सरकार पर रखा है, भारत सरकार के गृह मंत्रालय की ओर से आपकी मांग किए बगैर ही इस सारी चीजों को पूरी करने के लिए एक टाइम बाउंड मैनर में प्रोग्राम भी बनाया जाएगा और हम गृह मंत्रालय के अंतर्गत एक कमेटी भी बनाएंगे जो असम सरकार के साथ रहकर ये पूरे समझौते को पूरा करने का प्रयास करें।
आज असम के लिए और एक ऐतिहासिक दिन है। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का कार्यकाल में गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जी का मार्गदर्शन में हमारा असम का जो शांति का प्रक्रिया ये निरंतर चलते रहा। तीनों एकॉर्ड का अच्छा इंप्लीमेंट हुआ और तीनों एकॉर्ड से हमारा जो ट्राइबल मिलिटेंसी था ये खत्म हो चुका असम में, आज सभी मेन स्ट्रीम में है।
And I'm being joined by PK Mishra, the former IG BSF Assam. Thank you very much, sir, for talking to us. So my first question to you at this point would be, how important and big is this peace accord that has been signed?
I can well tell you, when I was in Assam, I can well see what is happening there. Alpha has taken our 10,000 tolls since 1979 when it was formed. And we have Anup Chetia, who came from Bangladesh. We have Arvind Rajkhova, who also came back from Bangladesh camp. And both of them, they wanted to come to the forefront and come to the line. And the PACT program was going on. And the draft was submitted in April itself, April this year. And anyway, it has come to limelight, and it's a very, very beautiful pact which was signed in the presence of Home Minister and Chief Minister of Assam, and also Arvind Rajkhova and Anup Chetia. Of course, we don't have Paresh Barua here, the independent faction who is there in Myanmar-China border with about 100 of his followers. But mostly all the Alpha leaders are already there in this pact, and a lot of Alpha leaders and Alpha militants have already surrendered because of this pact. And I know the peace will prevail in Assam now permanently, and it's a big setback to militants and also to Paresh Barua group. And I'm very sure Assam will flourish, and I'm very sure central government and state government will go through this demand, the Charter of Demand, 12 Charter of Demands, which was given by both Arvind Rajkhova and also this Anup Chetia's group. They will be looked after, particularly this Koch Rajbansi and T tribals and Sutia. All these groups, they have to be taken at the scheduled tribes status, and of course that will be looked into. And I'm very sure the donor and NEC will look after this, and as Home Minister has already promised, he will make a committee, and with the state government, they will ensure the Charter of Demands of this Alpha group, those who have surrendered and who have signed the pact, will be definitely looked into, both by Mr. Amit Shah, as also by the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam. And I'm very grateful that this has been signed, and the Assam will flourish economically and politically and also in every respect. Yeah.
Sir, allow me to interrupt you, sir.
Yes,
you know, you're also possibly talking to a generation that isn't very familiar with ULFA. You know, if you could just break this down for us, because from what I have seen and understood, ULFA was perhaps at a peak, say 20 to 25 years ago. It's been almost 44 years or 45 years
Yeah.
since ULFA was formed, and it was absolute havoc in Assam. It had asked and demanded for a separate Assam, for an independent Assam, but there was so much of violence and terror across the state over a period of time, over the several years that have gone by since then. The large support base for ULFA in Assam has vastly dwindled. Would you just explain to us how big it is that a peace accord has been signed with ULFA in terms of what was happening in Assam?
Yes, I have seen the problem which was there in Assam because of Alpha. I told you about 10,000 people were killed and the violence was at its peak. Of course, in 2011, the Charter of Demand was submitted to Mr. Chidambaram, the then Home Minister, and also there was a talk. In 1992 with Mr. P.V. Narsingh Rao, that also failed, and there was a talk during Manmohan Singh's time also, that also failed. And the worst part of it, these Alpha followers, they were being trained in Myanmar, they were trained in Pakistan, and they were trained in Bangladesh. When Bangladesh, of course, the Sheikh Hasina came to power, all these Alpha camps, those who were there in Indo-Bangladesh border, they were shut down and they were removed. And these people, they shifted to Myanmar, to Bhutan. And then because of Indo-Bhutan cooperation and the Bhutan forces also, they went against them and they shut down their camps, and then they shifted to Myanmar border. And in Myanmar, of course, Anup Chetia was released from jail in 2015 and 2011. Arvind Rajkhova, he came back and he was imprisoned for about 1.5 years. And then both of them, they decided that they should come back. They should have pact with the government of India and government of Assam, and they wanted that the peace should prevail. But of course, the independent faction, Paresh Barua, did not agree to this. That is why he kept on shifting from Bangladesh to Bhutan and from Bhutan to Myanmar. And he knew that in Myanmar border, if he stays in Indo-Myanmar border, he can be caught any time. So he is now camping with 100 of his followers in Myanmar-China border. And China is playing the role. But the role played by Arvind Rajkhova and Anup Chetia, definitely that goes in their favor because they were capable enough to get the support of most of the Alpha supported people, and they came back, and most of them have surrendered. And I'm very sure that whatever has happened in last 44 years and before 20 years or so, Assam was burning. Everywhere people, I mean, there was fear, there was violence everywhere in Assam. Things are much better now. Things will be much better now because of this pact. And of course, the peace will prevail. Assam will flourish. And these tribals, those who are there, the Koch Rajvanshis and tree tribals, and also these tribals, they will definitely come up. They will be looked into, and their interest will be also looked into by both central government and state government. And I'm very sure their chartered demand will be considered. It has already been promised by Mr. Amit Shah, our Honorable Home Minister, that they will be looked into, for which a committee has been formed. So the progress will be there in Assam, and definitely the people will have a relief of sigh that yes, there will be no violence and no arson, no burning of houses. And it's a very nice thing which has been signed. And I'm very happy that the future Assam will be definitely bright,
sir. So,
and colorful.
Totally understand your sentiments in this. It is a major move. It's being seen as a golden period now. And as the Home Minister says, it's going to bring the rest of India closer to the Northeast. It's being seen as a big breakthrough. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us at this point.
No doubt.